remind us, what's cybercrime?
So cybercrime is effectively any crime that is committed using the internet. Information that we share today is an asset, and like any other asset, it needs to be protected. Yes, indeed. So what tends to happen is cybersecurity comes into play to help design procedures, processes, and systems to protect that information.
So now South Africa, like any country in the world, are developing what we call online companies. Does this increase the threat of cyber crime?
I think with any increase in the use of the internet, more and more devices are being connected, more and more people connect to the internet, more and more people use online services. Whenever there is an increase in that kind of activity, there is also an increase in the risk for cybercrime.
So this conversation that's taking place at Nasrec, you're encouraging young people to be aware, but also the opportunities that exist in this space. Tell us about it.
So there's some research done recently by the World Economic Forum, and they say, in the research, they say by 2030, Africa as a continent is going to probably have a quarter of the world's under 25-year-olds in employment. Now, there is vast amounts of opportunity for those people to take in this thing we're calling the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah.
So what we're looking for are people, just to show the youth out there that there are opportunities in cybersecurity, and it's something that they could consider as a career moving forward. The
great thing about these opportunities is that mindsets can also change. People can move away from expecting employment and creating new innovations in this space. Tell us about those.
Indeed, and this is the joy of the fourth industrial revolution. It's building on the technology that's already there today. As you mentioned earlier on, people are moving away from traditional job roles to online businesses.
Yeah.
And there is always scope for people to become part of that movement, to create their own businesses, to support the businesses that already exist, to add value to the businesses that already exist.
When we started the conversation, we spoke about South Africa being put number 6th and 7th on the cybercrime predator list. How can we get ourselves off that list?
In all fairness, that's a very, very loaded question. But there are certain things that can be done. Cybersecurity is a broad thing. Cybercrime is very broad. There are many facets to cybercrime, and I guess tackling individual facets of cybercrime would sort of aid the effort in getting off that list. In all fairness, I don't even know who's number one. I hope.
But I just want to zone in on that word that says predator list. Does it mean that there are hackers from outside the country who are targeting the country, or does it mean that we need to create more awareness in terms of our internet usage internally?
If I'm interpreting the word predator properly, I would say there are the infrastructure in South Africa is being used to commit crime. Cybercrime, the word cyber effectively means internet. It's very difficult to tell where a particular crime originates from. We know who it's impacting, but we don't always know where the perpetrators actually are.
What are some of the impacts of cybercrime?
Say, for instance, recently in South Africa, there was I think 75 million people's personal details were leaked as a result of a real estate company in Pretoria. I think their website got hacked and all of these people's details were released. Now, if I have your name, your ID numbers or your car registration numbers or any of those personal details, I can use that information to my own advantages, and in those cases may negatively impact you.
Yeah. Now, if I'm correct, you've traveled all the way from the UK to come and participate in this. What is your interest in this conversation?
So I've always been interested in youth development myself. I have a very long background in cybersecurity, information security. And for me, it's about evangelizing what cybersecurity is, letting people know, letting the youth know that there are opportunities in this space. In some cases, it can be quite technical. In other places, it's not. But letting people know that there is a path from where they are to where I am is important.
The youth unemployment in South Africa is a big conversation, but also the need to innovate. How are you going to be talking to the young people you're talking to at the event in terms of how they can take South Africa forward in terms of the cyber security space?
So I think that again is another loaded question in itself. The opportunities are going to be vast. The fourth industrial revolution that's coming along, that's your artificial intelligence, your machine learning, the devices that everybody wears that monitor your health, that is going to spawn varying different types of industries. So there are a lot of things that need to be done. The government themselves,
I would imagine education as well.
Education is key. Education is key here. Getting people into the familiar with the workplace early, making sure that the youth are educated in ICT, right? Proper education in ICT. Because the world is moving on. We want to make sure we have a very good foundation for our youth so that they can become part of this new world and add value to this new world.
Compared to the global situation, how does South Africa rank in terms of its cybersecurity?
I wish I could answer that particular question, but I can't. But needless to say, cybersecurity is a significant issue for all nations. The world cannot get enough of cybersecurity professionals right now. There is a shortage of them.
So Trey, you participating in the conversation, but just give us a global sense. We were talking about South Africa and the youth here, but globally, what significance or importance is allocated to the conversation of cybersecurity?
So I guess to answer that question, it's better to give an example of it. Every day, there are more and more devices being connected to the internet. Critical infrastructure, companies, governments, utility companies, I should say for the most part, are connecting critical infrastructure to the internet. Power stations, oil pipelines, etc., etc.
Virtually everything.
Virtually everything. What would happen if somebody managed to break in and destroy a pipeline or turn off all the electricity? All of a sudden, the physical world being connected to the internet becomes a big problem.
It kind of makes one wants to switch off your social media or any interaction you have on the internet, but you don't have a choice, do we?
It does, no. Well, you do have a choice. You can turn it off, but then you may as well be living under a rock. It's about being safe. It's about knowing what can happen and knowing how to protect yourselves.
Trey Mujakporue is a cyber security expert and analyst, and you are taking part in the 4th Cyber Security Indaba that's taking place at the Nasrec Expo Center. Thank you so much for making the time there, talking to us about the myriad of opportunities that exist, especially for young people in this space.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for making the time. You're watching The Agenda, and we continue with the show.